Hello folks, this is Sula speaking. You're listening to another video for Teamfight Tactics. As you might notice right away, this is not one of my games of Teamfight Tactics. This is some footage that was sent to me by Antisocialmunky. He said he had a game here that he thought would make for a good cast, and I took a look at it and I was happy to go ahead and put this up on YouTube. This is going to be some footage of a pentakill team composition with Viego as the eventual featured carry. It's also going to feature the forward-thinking augment, which is an augment that I don't think I've ever taken in one of my games before, and it's one of the more unique augments in Teamfight Tactics right now, so we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, here on the first minion round, we're going to have a headliner choice that ends up defining Antisocialmunky's game. He has a pentakill Olaf in his store, and he is going to pick that up and he's going to run with it. I should also mention that the encounter for this game is Scuttle Puddle, so it's going to be kind of a crazy high loot lobby. It's going to be more items, more gold than normal, so it's going to be like a loot fiesta game. Get used to that expectation. All right, back to the Olaf here. Again, Olaf is 1-cost pentakill unit, has bruiser and pentakill traits. He is kind of an early game carry to some extent. He can serve as a tank, but it's also very valid to just use Olaf as an early game damage dealer. He's a unique unit in the sense that he's the only unit in set 10 that does not have any mana at all. He is entirely auto attack based. He's pretty similar, I'd say, to some of the other sets. They've had Warwick, in the sense that when Warwick's been a monolith unit, just entirely auto attack based, he hits people and he heals for damage. As he deals damage, he heals in the process. And the lower his health gets, the faster he attacks is kind of the thing. Again, there's been different units like this at various points in time in different sets. So as of right now, ASM picked up the Olaf headliner, and he's also picked up another Olaf. And in some ways, it's kind of interesting. He has the pentakill version of the headliner, not the bruiser. If he had the bruiser Olaf, he could actually play 4 bruisers pretty easily here. But instead, he really needs to find another, pentakill unit so we can actually get pentakill trait in. All right, the first augment is silver, and he's going to take table scraps. This is a new augment for set 14. I don't think I've ever had an opportunity to use this one before. It means that when there's an item carousel, there's always 9 items on the carousel, and there's only 8 players in the game, so there's always at least 1 item left over. If you take table scraps, you get the leftover item after the carousel's done. That's why it's called table scraps. An interesting thing is, if 2 people have this augment, one of them randomly doesn't get the benefit because there's only 1 leftover item. It's actually kind of buggy in that regard. It probably should not be offered if someone in the lobby already has it, or they should probably hard code it so only 1 person in the lobby ever sees it. But yeah, apparently it is possible for 2 people to have it and one of the 2 players to get nothing. Also, it does only apply to the next 2 carousels. Only applies to the next 2. So it's not going to be on every carousel for the rest of the game. You are not going to be getting the full item that you get on the stage 5 and stage 6 carousels. So yeah, you only get it on the first 2. So, I mean, I think this is okay, but I don't think it's great. In particular, the leftover items tend to be tank items. So maybe if you feel a need to get some additional tank items, this could be worth taking. Otherwise, I'm less certain that it's especially great here. Anyway, ASM does have another Olaf in his story. He actually has 6 Olafs already. So he has the headliner, which gives him 3. And it looks like he's going to mostly sell to get up to the 20 gold threshold. So he is pretty rich, but of course everybody else in the lobby is pretty rich as well, given that this is a Scuttle Puddle lobby here. Anyway, though, he is up to 6 Olafs, and this is always the question about what to do when you get an early game headliner like the Olaf. The question is, are you going to try to go for the 3-star unit, or are you going to just play them as a transition unit and then pivot out of that headliner? My personal preference when it comes to Olaf in this set is just to use him as a transition unit. You can put items that are good later on like a Viego or an Akali. Their itemization's not quite the same, but it's reasonably close. And you can just play the Olaf for the early mid game with the expectation that you're going to sell and move into hopefully a 4, or if you're really lucky, a 5-cost headliner later on. But if you stick with the Olaf headliner and 3-star, the problem is then you're stuck with a 3-star Olaf, which is just like pretty mediocre in the late game. Doesn't really do a whole lot. So like that's always kind of the tricky aspect to this, is that you can get stuck with this unit that's like not really that great in the late game. But we'll see what ASM chooses to do here. He does have 6 Olafs very early. And as I said, Olaf is quite strong in the early and mid game. He's actually going to sell the Gragas because he wants to make sure that he hits the 30 gold income breakpoint here. If he kept the Gragas on the board, he could only hit the 30 income breakpoint if he won this round. If he lost the round, he would have been stuck on 29 gold. I probably would have kept the Gragas on the board because it does open up the possibility to play 4 Bruisers, which is actually quite strong in the early game. Olaf headliner with 4 Bruisers like just doesn't die because he has so much health early on. But ASM I know values the economy, values econ a little bit more than I do. I tend to value board strength a little bit higher than he does. So anyway, he's up against a disco board in this round. Olaf keeps getting grabbed by the Nami bubbles. And if you do intend to play through Olaf as like a significant carry, one of his more important items actually is Quicksilver Sash. I don't think ASM's going to make that in this game. He actually could have slammed Quicksilver Sash right now if he wanted to. But it doesn't look like he's going to go for that particular route. Yeah, Olaf is entirely auto attack based, so like if you're trying to play him as your featured carry, you would want you would want like Rage Blade, Quicksilver Sash, and then like a Bloodthirster or something like that. He does have innate healing, but melee units always need like tons and tons of healing. I'm sure that the sword would have been really nice for Antisocialmunky to get, because he could have made a Bloodthirster, which would have been very nice on Olaf, and it becomes a good item on Viego or Akali later on. That is not there. That gets snapped up. So he ends up taking the glove, which is a little bit surprising to me. I'm not sure that he had all that much need for another glove here. And then he gets a leftover belt. Now, this round's going to give him a Mordekaiser, so he can finally get Pentakill trade in. He also had the... Oh, maybe he took that because he wanted the... Did he take that because he wanted the Gnar, just so he could play Pentakill? I could be wrong. Maybe he took that just because he wanted the Gnar. That might possibly explain it. Well, in any case, now he has 4 Pentakill units out there. And he's got 2 gloves, a tier, and a belt. One item that would not be terrible to make here would be a Hand of Justice. It's not the best item on like a Viego. It's not terrible though. It's definitely not as good as Bloodthirster on him, but it's a decent item. And it's actually a pretty good item on Akali. You usually play into Akali with Pentakill team compositions because Akali has really good synergy with Karthus. So I probably would have just, if I were playing this game, I probably would have just made the Hand of Justice and just gone with that. By the way, in this fight, the Jinx is ramping up off that Rage Blade, and yeah, it's not especially close there. Unfortunately, that round does not work out, and also, unfortunately, ASM stuck on 39 gold. I'm sure he would like to be at 40, but he doesn't want to sell the Gnar, and it turns out it's good that he didn't sell the Gnar, because now he can put in the Gnar and add together with that Kale, and that will be enough to get him up to 5 Pentakill. So yeah, there we go. 5 Pentakill. Again, as a quick refresher on Pentakill, Pentakill units gain 15% durability and damage amp. When for each champion kill, they rock out and they gain additional, They gain additional attack. Is it attack damage or attack speed? I think they get additional AD. And then if they kill 5 units, if the whole board kills 5 units, then all Pentakill units gain additional attack speed. Again, it's a stacking trait throughout the fight. As Pentakill units kill enemy units, they get stronger. And again, if you can kill 5 enemy units, then the whole Pentakill board rocks out and gets additional attack speed. So it is kind of a scaling trait. They do get stronger over the course of the fights. Overall, here on Stage 2, ASM's been losing most of these rounds, but the good news is most of his losses have not been that bad. Looks like he's going to lose 4 out of the 5 rounds. But as I said, he didn't really lose that much health. He only lost 17 health, which is not bad for 4 losses. Now, the bad news is his losses did not come on a streak. He went loss, loss, win, loss, loss, which is not really what you want here. It's not great. And, oh, okay. He just re-rolled the shop on level 4. That means that he is going for 3-star Olaf. Otherwise, he would not have re-rolled here. I didn't know before then if he was just trying to get as much econ as possible. And then he was going to power level versus trying to hit the 3-star Olaf. But it does appear he wants the 3-star Olaf. Again, as I said, it's going to be strong early mid-game, but it will fall off in the late game because, if you're playing with a 1-cost headliner and other people have 4- and 5-cost headliners, it does mean that you often tend to get outscaled in the late game, especially in a scuttle puddle lobby like this that just is, as I said, a loot fiesta with stuff everywhere. On that note, ASM does have an awful lot of items on his bench. And you got to remember, this is the set revival mode where you have a golden. Look at all this. Look at all that loot. That's disgusting. You have to remember, this is the set revival mode where you have the golden item remover. So he really could have slammed some of those items. He could have put like the belt on a frontliner. Oh, by the way, well, there's 3-star Olaf. That was relatively painless to hit the 3-star Olaf, so that's nice. But he definitely could have slammed some of these items. Like, even if he didn't want to make a completed item, he could like put the tier on Kale and the belt on, like, I don't know, on the Mordekaiser, and like the glove on Gnar. Like, you might as well slap these components on your units. You have a golden item remover, you might as well use it. But I think ASM has mostly been playing set 14, and it is like a mental adjustment when you're playing the set revival and you have the golden item remover to be like, oh yeah, I want to pop items on and off everyone constantly. It's one of the reasons why I try to play either only the set revival or only the main set. And as of right now for this set, I do not like set 14 at all, so I'm content just to be on the set revival. This is a good example of a fight where Olaf just like kind of gets going because he's a 3-star unit. His like base stats are just too high for the enemy team right now, so he just like hulks out and kills the entire enemy team. They do not have enough damage to overcome his healing, especially when he gets low and he gets all that attack speed. So yeah. All right, now look at this. This is where we're going to get the other augment that's going to make this game kind of interesting. And ASM's going to reroll the options here. And he's going to take forward thinking, lose all your gold after 5-player combats, gain back the original gold plus 70. Interesting augment. So he goes to 0 gold. He goes to 0 gold. I believe he was right around, so he was right around 50 gold, and then he got the extra 10 gold that you always get if you're over 50 gold. So he would have been at right around 60 gold. He's going to get that back plus another 70 gold. But he's not going to get that back for 5-player combat rounds. That's going to be the beginning of stage 4. So he's going to get just an absolutely ridiculous amount of gold. I think it's on 4-2 is when you get that, if you take this on 3-2. But in the meantime, his board is basically crippled. He has no gold in the bank, so he cannot reroll. He cannot level. He can't even buy anything in the shop. There's a Tom Kench in the store that ASM can't buy because he doesn't have any money. If he wins this round, he can purchase it. It's probably not worth locking the shop for it, so I'm sure he's hoping he wins this. Does Olaf actually win this fight? You wouldn't think so, but oh, he starts attacking fast when he gets low. Go, Olaf, go. Can he kill the Senna? And all right, well, he does lose that, so it's up to Kale. Can Kale win the fight? Do it for Olaf. Oh, there we go. Gonna get the Tom Kench. All right, so he did get the 2-star Tom Kench there. A surprisingly dramatic fight. But you can see that taking this augment just absolutely cripples you in the short run. So it is a big case of high risk, high reward. It's not something that you would see me take. I tend to be a little bit more conservative in the way that I play the game, and I'm just not a big fan of something that's going to completely torpedo your game for like the next 5 rounds or however long it is. Still, if you're going to take forward thinking, this is a good spot to take it in. And the reason for that is Antisocialmunky had just hit the 3-star Olaf. So his board got a huge power spike off of hitting the 3-star Olaf. So he is kind of at one of the strongest points that his comp can be right now here on stage 3. 3-star Olaf's going to be really strong on stage 2 and stage 3. So hopefully the fact that he did hit the 3-star Olaf before he took the forward thinking means he can just power through these next few rounds. It looks like he's going to win this one as well. Just like power through these next couple rounds. Maybe you take a couple losses, but the main thing is that you don't just like lose the next 5 rounds in a row and be down at like 30 HP or something like that. By the time that this wears off, because it's going to take a little while to put his board together, even after he gets the big gold infusion. He's actually won enough rounds that he's a 3rd pick here on the carousel. And once again, the sword gets grabbed immediately. He definitely would benefit from being able to get a sword there. Again, I think he's trying to make a Bloodthirster because it's a good Olaf item, but it's also a good Viego item. Out of these other items, I think it would probably be the bow, if I'm looking at this right. Okay, he takes the belt, which is kind of interesting. A little surprised by that. There are a number of different things he could do with a bow. He could do he could always do a Last Whisper. It's also like half of a Titan's Resolve. It just seems like that's probably more useful. And then he got another tier. So interestingly enough, he has double belts, double tiers. And another interesting thing is this game was played, I believe, the day of the patch that reworked several of the items. So like you're seeing, it's not Redemption anymore. Now it's Spirit Visage is the recipe for the tier plus belt. That was interesting. He's actually going to level here. I'm a little surprised he leveled because there wasn't really anything to put in on the board. A little surprised he did that. Maybe just wanted the better shop odds. I thought he was just going to stay at level 5 and just preserve econ for the time being. So, yeah, a lot of very unusual items. Double gloves, double tiers, double belts. Again, I probably would have done at least one Hand of Justice there. And then maybe you save like the other tier for a potential Shojin. But then again, on the other hand, if you're using a tier on a Shojin, you can't use it for... or what is it? Yeah, if you I don't know. Might want to use it on Shojin for Karthus later on or something else. But that would mean that the glove can't be used on... Oh, I was going to say, if you use a sword with the tier for Shojin, then you can't use the sword with the cloak for a potential Bloodthirster. That's what I was thinking. Again, Pentakill teams really benefit from lots of swords. There's a lot of things you want to build out of swords. Karthus wants a Shojin. Viego wants a Bloodthirster. Viego would really like an Edge of Night, and Viego would really like an Infinity Edge as well. And then if you're itemizing Akali, she really likes Bloodthirster as well. So a lot of items that build out of swords that you would want from this comp, and unfortunately ASM has not gotten a single sword. But he ends up making the Thief's Glove, which is not terrible. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I probably would have been more likely to make a Warmogs, though, just because I think the Warmogs has maybe a little more general value. And you're probably going to play into Sentinel trait because you're going to be playing Mordekaiser. And since Sentinel gives armor and magic resistance, Warmogs tends to be a really good item on Sentinels because they get armor and MR from their trait. And then what do they need? They need extra health. So in any case, so far at least, Antisocialmunky has not really been punished for taking the forward thinking because, again, Olaf just kind of carried him and took him through several of those fights that otherwise probably would have been pretty rough in a normal game. But again, he had the 3-star Olaf. If he could only now get some items for the Olaf. He's got all these tiers and belts, which and before that he had gloves, which were, I mean, I guess okay, but not exactly what he wants. Again, he really would like some swords here, if at all possible. Even a rod would not be terrible, although Olaf couldn't use the rod. Some of his other units might be able to. But what's he going to get here? He's going to get even more gold and even more belts. What the heck? Another belt. There's finally a bow. So that's something. And another tier. What the... What is going on here? 3 tiers? 3 belts? What the heck? What is he going to do with all these? Okay. I mean, I guess he's going to take the Warmogs. And it's nice that he hit the Nar 2-star. That'll help a fair bit. Now, we can get one more Mordekaiser. That would be nice. Unfortunately, there's not really anyone in this team composition that wants a blue buff with all these tiers. So is he going to make not going to make the Gnasher's Tooth? Okay. Oh, the reworked, the old Sterix. I can't remember what they did. Did they change the name of that item? I can't remember what that is now. But the reworked Sterix would actually not be bad on Viego either. It's actually also a pretty good item. And that's the sword plus belt combo. So he just really would like swords. Really, if he had 3 swords instead of 3 tiers, this would be a lot nicer. But, yeah, it is what it is. I guess you got to make do with what you got there. All right, so here's the 4-1 round. Again, ASM is going to get, I believe, 130-ish gold at the start of the next round. So he'll go up to about 40 gold and then get another 130. So he's going to be at like 170 gold starting in the next round. And that's a good thing because his board is really kind of fallen off by the wayside here. He definitely needs to get a lot stronger than this. As you saw that Misfortune plus Bard board just kind of ripped right through him. So, all right, he's going to get the choice of another Augment. It's a gold one. No Prismatics this game. And he gets one that's good for a Pentakill team competition, Metalheads. Pentakill champs are immune to crowd control, and they heal for 4% of their max health. So that's nice. Yeah, he went up to, what, about 170 gold? So he can just level straight to level 8. I mean, he could go straight to level 9, but that seems pretty risky. I think it does make sense to roll here on level 8. Okay, he's going to find a Viego right away. That's nice. There's a Karthus. And he went, okay, he's not going to play the Akali. A little surprising to me. Akali just pairs so well with Karthus. I'm a little surprised he didn't want to play that unit, or at least pick it up as an option. Like, even if you end up not playing it, picking it up as an option seems like it's something you would want. All right, he finds the Kane at the 3% odds. That's very nice. That's a good way to get Edgelord trait in play. And now he just needs to play the Karthus. Didn't quite manage to get Karthus on the board. But I'm going to assume he's going to make some Karthus items. Okay, he's going to make the new Void Staff and then also make, interesting, going to make the Adaptive Helm. Now, those items will cause Karthus to cast relatively quickly. The new Void Staff is a replacement for the old Static Shiv. It basically functions mostly similarly. It's a magic resistant shred, but instead of the arcing lightning, It's just whoever the champions damage has their magic resistance shredded for the next, I think it's the next 3 seconds. And there's also more AP on this Void Staff than on the old Static Shiv. So like it's a little bit better on a primary carry. Static Shiv you pretty much never wanted to have on your primary carry. This is going to be a bit better. All right, so Blitz can come out of the, or Tom Kench can come out of the team competition. Tom Kench not really needed at this point. Does lose Bruiser trait, but it's definitely better to get the 7 pentakill in. 7 pentakill is a bit of a spike over 5 pentakill. I think that the damage amp bonus goes from 30% to 45%. And for right now, Viego is going to hold the Thief's Glove, which makes sense. I don't really see anyone else who would want to hold the Thief's Glove right now. But it would be nice if there were some actual Viego items instead of, okay, Karthus is still in the front row. Go get him, front row Karthus. Will he actually survive to get his ult off? There is sometimes logic to playing a spellcaster in the front row in the sense that they will get their first cast off faster because they'll be taking damage. The problem is they're probably never getting a second cast off in the fights. Probably not going to get a second cast off, though, if you're frontlining them. All right, so ASM did convert all that gold into a 7 pentakill board. If there's a downside here, he didn't manage to find a Yorick. Not that the odds to find Yorick were going to be that amazing. By the way, there's a sword, but it's on a Kiana, so that's probably not going to be available again. It's like my kingdom for a sword. If only he could get a sword here. Yeah, I'm sure he'd like to do either Shojin for Karthus or any one of the 6 different sword items I've talked about that would be good on Viego. But no, that's not a possibility. Okay, he takes the cloak. I mean, I'm not sure that there were really that many other good options here. Maybe he's still trying to pull a sword to make a Bloodthirster. This is a game where ASM's been getting trolled by items pretty hard. And again, this can happen when you play a pentakill team competition. It really does want mostly offensive items, but just not. I don't feel like he's really getting what he's looking for here, unfortunately. And sometimes that happens when you play these games. You're also starting to see the weakness of running the Olaf as the headliner this late in the game. Is the Olaf just doesn't really do a whole lot at this stage of the game. So I do, and like because a lot of these items went into Karthus, who's a 1-star unit at the moment, and all that was left over for Viego was a Thief's Glove. I do feel like this board is like kind of misitemized, although again, to some extent, that's not really ASM's fault because he's been getting really weird trolly items this entire game. He's just gotten tiers and belts and gloves and like nothing else the whole game. But by the same token, he hasn't really been able to make any items that you would want on like Viego. So Viego's just holding the Thief's Glove, which is, I mean, okay, but it's not really what you want. You really would prefer like Viego to have real items. You'd prefer to have like Karthus and Viego with the real items, and then like leftover tank stuff on Mordekaiser. Because like Olaf's the headliner, but he just has tank items. Like he can't really carry these fights anymore. But if he wants to get a new headliner, he has to sell Olaf, who's a 3-star unit, and like that feels terrible. So yeah, just kind of in an awkward position here. ASM's leveling to level 9, but I don't know. I just feel like he's in a really awkward spot here with his items, with his board. I mean, he has the 7 pentakill in, but like this is a lobby that has this is a scuttle puddle lobby. I feel like his board's getting outscaled pretty heavily here. Like what really carries the fights here? Olaf's basically a tank. Viego is dependent on the items he rolls. I mean, maybe the Karthus, but Karthus doesn't really kill units. I mean, I guess he does, but he just kind of like chips down units. His damage is so split amongst multiple targets. It's actually really hard for him to like, I don't know, carry fights on his own. He's a good secondary carry. Karthus is a good secondary carry, but it is hard for him to win fights on his own. Still, it looks like ASM is winning these fights for the moment, but as I said, I do feel like his board gets outscaled as this game goes on. But for the moment, he's pretty strong. As I said, 3-star Olaf does have a really strong early game and mid game. Okay, maybe he can get some better items here on this final minion round. He is going to be able to get to level 9 again. He got so much money from that forward thinking that he is going to be able to get to level 9, and then he'll have gold to roll there, and then he can just go from that spot. But I'm sure that ASM would not have picked these items if he were, if he had a choice before the game started. He would really have benefited from Pandora's items in this game. All right, let's see what he can get from this last minion round. Again, you're really looking for 2-star Karthus. He is on 7 Kales, not that he has Kale items here either. And, okay, I mean, you could actually play the Pop. The Poppy actually can be played on a pentakill board. She's actually a pretty decent champion to put a pentakill emblem on. She's not bad at that. All right, well, there is a sword as an option there. Yeah, going to take the sword. Okay, he opts for the Shojin over trying to make like a Bloodthirster for the Viego. So clearly opting to play through the Karthus in this game, which is a little surprising to me. that the Karthus is the unit that he's focusing on so heavily in this one. And, all right, there's another Blitz. There's another Kale. That's 8 Kales, and oh, what's this? There's a Pentakill Viego Headliner, and it's like, oh boy. Well, that would get him to 6 Viegos, but the problem is if he picks up that Viego, then he has to sell his Olaf, and then he doesn't even have 7 Pentakill in after that. He'd have to find an Olaf again, or he'd have to find a what's his name, a Yorick. So the odds are actually probably better. The odds are actually about the same to find Olaf and to find Yorick on level 9, which is kind of hilarious. This round not going so well, but apparently he is going to move into the Viego Headliner. Again, that's the problem with the Olaf, is if you're going to play a Pentakill team composition, you got to move out of the Olaf if you want to get another Headliner. Again, that just sucks to have that happen. But hey, at least Olaf came right back again, so that's nice. I mean, that does not always happen to have the Olaf come instantly back again into your shop. He's actually already on 2 out of 3 Olafs in there. And there's 2-star Blitz, and then there's another Viego, so that actually gets him to 6 Viegos. He can actually play the double Viegos on the board for now. But again, he doesn't have any items to put on Viego. Like, he's got a freaking Thief's Glove on Viego here. You don't want that to be the case. Okay, that's 2 out of 3 Karthuses. And there's Yorick, and there's another Viego. Okay, this is getting pretty lucky. I have to say, this is pretty lucky here. There are 12 copies of the, and he actually, I do not think he had to sell those Kales. I really don't think he needed to clear out that bench space. By the way, his team is losing quite badly in these rounds. That's pretty lucky. I mean, there's 12 copies of the 4 cost, and indeed, no one else is playing Yorick, but like, or not Yorick, no one else is playing Viego, but like, he is hitting these Viegos really, really fast, like almost instantly. Granted, he is level 9, so it is the 30% odds. It's a little better. And oh my god, there's the 3-star Viego. Okay, again, there are extra copies of the, and he hit the 2-star Yorick instantly too. Okay, some games you just high roll. This is clearly a high roll. As I was saying, so there's 12 copies of the 4 cost here in the set revival. Normally there's 10. The set revival has 12. So he didn't have to find 9 out of 10 copies of Viego. He had to find 9 out of 12, which makes it a little easier. And no one else in the lobby is playing the unit. That said, he hit the Viego super easily. I mean, he was on, he went up to 6 Viegos when he got the Headliner. And then he had to find 3 more for the 3-star unit. And what is it? It took him, I mean, he rolled like what, maybe 20, maybe like 25 gold, maybe 30 gold. I mean, yeah, you can go and look at the, I actually had a Pentakill game that I put up on YouTube like a week ago, which involved me hitting 3-star Karthus, which was a lot of fun. Karthus, my favorite champ from League of Legends. And in that game, I had 7 Karthuses on like the, I don't know, I think like the end of stage 4. And I went to level 9 and I rolled almost 100 gold before I hit the last 2 Karthuses. It can happen sometimes. It can happen. It takes a long time to hit. So I guess it's a good news for ASM that he hit so quickly, because he was kind of getting run over in those last few fights until he hit the 3-star version of the Viego. And he also just took a Crowd Diver emblem off the carousel, which I believe was a misclick, because Crowd Diver does not fit his board at all. It doesn't seem like it really does anything for his board. Feels like some other item probably would have been more useful. So we end up with a 3-star Viego who is who literally has a Thief's Glove sitting there as his item. So okay, actually going to move out of the Olaf, drop Bruiser trait to pick up Crowd Diver trait. That's probably worthwhile. Probably just better to play Kiana on the board than play Olaf on the board at this stage of the game. Kiana will print some additional items for the rest of the team. She does not have true damage trait in, so she can't make permanent items, but she can put temporary items on the rest of the team here. And yeah, I mean, Viego's a 3-star 4 cost, so he's gonna like run over people without too much difficulty. Viego's ability, I don't have the cheat sheet in front of me. I'm actually recording this pretty late at night before I go to bed. So I do not have the cheat sheet in front of me. But his ultimate is he basically puts like a big X on the board where he hits the targets that are inside. And, just does like a big amount of damage. The items that Viego has are actually pretty awful right now. The Thief's Glove is not rolling very good items. But the fact is, it's a 3-star 4 cost. So the base stats that Viego gets from being a 3-star 4 cost, they're just so high that, in a way, it doesn't really matter the fact that he has bad items on his Thief's Glove. ASM is surely trying to get Viego some actual items. so that like he could use the Titan's Resolve that's on the Yorick right now. And by the way, he hit 3-star Yorick absurdly easy as well. Like he just hit the Yorick, hit the extra Viegos. He just kind of hit everything instantly. So I mean, this is TFT. It's a game with controlled randomness. Sometimes it happens. There's a game where there's the old saying of, hey, just hit, just hit. That's the strategy. And it seems like that was the case in this particular game. But with a little bit less luck, I think he was probably headed for like a 6th place finish in this game, because he was not winning these rounds until he hit the 3-star Viego. And in fact, if he had 2-star Viego right now, even with him having an Alawi on the board and a 2-star Karthus and a 2-star Yorick, I think if he just has a 2-star Viego, he still loses these rounds to most of these other boards, because there's just like no damage outside. I mean, I guess Karthus has some damage. I guess that's not true. Karthus does a decent amount of damage too. But the items are a little wonky on Karthus, and Viego just has a Thief's Glove, so this will be a pretty rough game without the 3-star Viego. So yeah, that can happen. Now maybe he can pull some good items here. Okay, he can pull the Hand of Justice. That seems like a good Viego item. And okay, these are less good, but I think you would still want the Deathblade. I mean, out of these options, it's got to be Deathblade. Viego does physical damage. Getting an extra 55 AD and 10% damage amp, which just causes ult to be stupidly overpowered as a 3-star 4 cost. Oh, he's actually going to reforge this. Okay, I do not agree with that decision. Just use the Deathblade. You can always, if you can get something better off a carousel later on, then, you know, take something better off a carousel later on. But that seems like it was pretty good. Well, he ended up getting more tank items. ASM definitely does not need more tank items. He's got double Warmogs already. And now he's got a Gargoyle Stoneplate to go with it. Definitely not something he needs, but okay. So he has a Warmogs on Viego. I don't think you really want the Warmogs on him. I mean, he has got a ton of health anyway, by virtue of being the 3-star 4 cost. But I mean, I guess it's okay. It does make it less likely he's going to die. And then we get the little animation. Again, this is how you know it's not me playing the game, because I can't stand the stupid little chibi animations. I think they look really, really dumb, but I know other people like them, and they've made approximately $4 billion for Riot Games by having these, because people definitely buy them. People buy them in like enormous quantities. So I don't know. Kudos to them if you like it, but I think they're really, really stupid. You will never ever see me with one of those little chibis. It's like a League of Legends character. Anyway, ASM moving some of the items around. He's going to put the Thief's Glove on the Cane. And now we're going to have 2-star Warmogs, Gargoyle Stoneplate, Crowd Diver, Yorick. So that's going to be a thing. Let's see if he ends up even getting to use the Crowd Diver portion of his ability. Because okay, it looks like ASM was up against someone who just surrendered. So okay, he ends up not even having a fight that round. I'm pretty sure he would have beaten either of these other boards anyway. But yeah, he doesn't even have. He just gets to sit back and watch it. Looks like there is the 3-star MF, 3-star Bard board up against a Punk board, and lo and behold, the Punk board is getting outscaled here in the late game. Again, extremely common occurrence for Punk boards. They tend to be good in the early and mid game. It's tough for them to win lobbies. Not saying it can't happen, but the Punk boards do tend to get outscaled in the late game. It's pretty reliable top 4 if it's uncontested, but you're going to get like a lot of 3rd and 4th place finishes if you're playing that. Anyway, the Viego does have 5,500 health. He'd probably have like, what, 4,000 health without the Warmog, something like that. So that's probably enough health. I'm sure ASM is still looking to get a better item, but he didn't really have a lot of good choices. Still, I think that the Deathblade would have been better there. Just would have caused him to, I don't know, maybe it's actually overkill damage to have a Deathblade on him. Still, it would definitely be better if you could get a Bloodthirster on him or an Edge of Night or something like that, just so yeah, okay, so Viego is just one-shotting anything when he gets his ult off, because he does so much damage by virtue of being in a Pentakill 7 board, and also having, he also has Edgelord trait in, so he can dash around, and he also has, he's a 3-star unit, so yeah. Now it's down to just ASM and the, MF plus Bard player, which, by the way, a really cool board over there. By the way, there's that Deathblade again. He could take the Deathblade again if he wanted another Deathblade. And this person's going to tell him go for 5 cost 3 stars, sell everything else. I mean, that's probably the only way that other player can win. So, I mean, I guess you might as well try. But, yeah, it's like the only way that ASM is going to lose is if he starts selling his board. So, like, why would he do that? It doesn't make any sense. And it looks like some of these items are going to get shifted around again. I think ASM realized like midway through the game that he had the golden item remover and started doing a lot more item shuffling afterwards. Okay, he's going to do double Titans. That's a good choice as well. That works really well for Viego. And so he still has a leftover Crowd Diver emblem. Not really a good person to put that on. So what did he end up putting the Crowd Diver emblem on the Mordekaiser? It's like, okay. This other board would probably win most lobbies. They have a 2-star Yorick. They had the, they had the 3-star MF and they had the, or did they sell their MF headliner? I think they sold their MF headliner, because they were going for Ziggs 3-star, and they came up with 8 Ziggs, but 8 is not enough to get the 3-star. There are 10 copies of the 3-cost or the 5-cost units, and there's actually a Zig in ASM store, so there actually is one more Zig in the pot. Antisocialmunky has 1 Ziggs. That guy has 9 Ziggs. There's one more Zig somewhere in the pool, but unless that guy can summon it up right now, the game is probably over here, because I don't think, maybe he can survive again. I mean, if he takes less than 20 damage here, he can wait through the minion round and, get like another 4 or 5 rolls worth. Maybe he could get a duplicator. It is a Scuttle Puddle lobby. It's not impossible that he could get a champion duplicator from the minion run. Yeah, that guy ended up selling the Miss World, but no, he just surrenders. What the heck? Like, why? Why did that guy surrender? I don't understand. He probably survives that round, and then he could use the minion round to, get 15 to 20 gold and try again. So I don't understand that. It seems like it's at least, I mean, your odds aren't good, but, take the 10% chance. Take the 10% chance to see if the minion round delivers that final Ziggs for you. It is possible. Maybe, oh, you know what it is? Maybe he thought that there were only 9 copies of Ziggs in the pool, because in the normal game mode, there's only 9 of the 5 cost, but there's actually 10 here in this set revival. Maybe it was that, and he thought he had no shot. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this game. Again, a lot of differences from how I play, which is always interesting when I get to cast these games from someone else. I do think ASM got pretty lucky in this one, but you know what they say, high risk, high reward. This was a very risky game, and it ended up paying off. Until next time, thanks for watching, folks. Hope you enjoyed this one. Until then, take care, and I'll see you again soon.